Hi, I'm Jeanette, and I just wanted to share some things that I've learned lately. I hope it helps you as much as it's helped me. I recently taught plant structure for my high schoolers' biology co op, and what I learned about trees fascinated me. They are made up similar to the way I believe that we're made up. We are spirit, soul, and body. The innermost part of a tree is called the xylem. It's the very, very core of the tree. And once the cells are there, they die quickly once they mature. And I think that's like us if we're Christians, because when we decide to give our life to Jesus, we die to self and come alive to Christ in our spirit at the very core of us. The next realm for us is our soul, and that is the living active part, the mind, will, and intellect. And in a tree, the next layer beyond the xylem is called the phloem. Now, there's a lot of other things. It's not a perfect analogy, but the phloem is there, and it takes the food that's processed in photosynthesis, that's created through that process, and pulls it down into the roots for storage, and then back up to the different parts of the tree that need it. I should say that the xylem, the dead part in the spirit of the tree, not that the tree has the spirit, but in my analogy, um, pulls the water and the minerals from the roots to the leaves. And then the tree has the outer bark, which we have our outer bark, our body, and it's the vessel that we live in. It's constantly renewing itself, constantly growing, just like the tree's outer bark constantly grows as the phloem comes out and eventually ends up becoming tree. Um, and what I found the most interesting is in trees, a lot of times they'll go through a process called girdling. Um, People can do it to trees, or animals can do it to trees. People might girdle a tree because they want to come through and cut it down at a later date and they want it to already be dead. But what they do is they take a layer of the trunk just around the outside bark and take it off, and making sure that they've cut into the phloem, that part that brings the food down to the roots and then back up to the different parts of the tree that need it. And what this will do is slowly starve the tree. So it doesn't happen right away. And for years, it doesn't happen. But slowly, the tree starts to starve. And it starves from the bottom up. So you will look at the top of the tree and it looks totally healthy. The leaves are green, photosynthesis is occurring, and the water is still getting from the xylem, that inner core, to the top of the leaves, but the food is not getting down to where it needs to in the roots or to the other parts of the tree that are below the girdling. And so it kills it. And I was thinking that sometimes for us that happens as well. If we get sick, like an extreme sickness for a long time, we have a massive injury or trauma, we might be so focused on this outer thing in our body that our soul isn't flowing anymore. It can damage us, not just physically, but emotionally as well, to the point that we may not be getting the substance that we need circulating throughout our body, and we can die slowly over time. Um, in trees, there's a cool process that can be done. It's called um, bridge grafting, where they'll take a scion or just a cutting off the living part of the tree and graft it in below the injury and above the injury in several places around the trunk. And if that takes that new life force, that new, I don't know, almost like a straw from the top to the bottom, can graft into the tree and become part of it, and bring more energy and more life, more food to the phloem. Like it restores the phloem, it restores the soul. And we can do that too if we can stop focusing on our injury, on our sickness, on the death that's occurring every day. Then we can restore our soul, we can renew our soul as we pull closer to the Holy Spirit within us, as we pull closer to that source, the xylem, and find new things that bring life. Then we can restore our soul. I heard a friend tell a story the other day that just amazed me. He was in the hospital with double pneumonia, and the doctors had told him, "That's it, call in your family, you're done." And he agreed with them. He thought, you know what? I've lived a good life. I know the Lord. I know where I'm going when I die. I'm fine with that. And his body was quickly, rapidly dying. And then he heard that his daughter was going in for an emergency C-section and his grandbaby was about to be born. And he said, "What am I doing? There is something to live for. I want to meet this granddaughter of mine." And so he asked the doctors, "What is it I need to do to get out of here?" And they gave him the little list and he said, "Okay, I'm doing it. I'm getting out tomorrow." And his soul came alive in a new way and his body responded. And that can happen for all of us. There's a lot of things I didn't say in the video before that could be mentioned. Trees not only can have the bridge graft done, but they can also work on healing themselves. And it's really kind of fascinating in how they go about healing themselves. They don't actually heal the wound, but they bring up like a callus section around it of new growth that protects it. And that's you see the tree knots and different things like that. And I think that we can do that too subconsciously in our souls. We bring this callousness around an old wound, and where we may just kind of close that off or close that part of us off to everything. God can heal it. God can heal any part of us if we let him in and ask him to heal those old wounds that have been calloused over. So I think that's a beautiful thing. Another thing is that I was talking to my neighbor today about some trees that we have in our backyard, and one recently broke off and fell in their backyard. And I noticed that these trees, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they were girdled by some kind of animal or if something happened at the root level, but it seems that they are slowly dying from the bottom up. And the top looks great. They look alive up there, but down lower, they look dead. And he pointed out, he stuck his knife in the tree and showed me, well, it's alive here. And one thing that he said that really stood out to me, where I was thinking, okay, we got to cut this thing down because it's dying. And he said, you don't cut it down until it's all the way dead. And it really impacted me, especially thinking of trees as an analogy to us. Like, there's so many times in life where people feel like, I'm slowly dying. Let's just end this. It's over. It's done. And that's not true. There's still life. Even if parts are dead, I mean, God can resurrect any part of your life. But I think it was just words of wisdom for my neighbor. You don't cut it down till it's all the way dead. And I think that those are good words to live by. There's always hope. Drawing in closer to the Holy Spirit, finding new interests and things that help your soul. Anyway, I thought this was all so interesting that I wanted to share it, and I hope that it helps some of you too. Have a great day. Bye.